Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hamden, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. Our guest today on Got Grass is Bronwyn Keith-Hynes. She's a two-time IBMA Fiddle Player of the Year and a member of Molly Tuttle's band Golden Highway. So welcome, Bronwyn.
Thank you so much for having me. How you doing?
Very good. I've met you a few times with the Mile 12 band down in Hamden, Connecticut, or up in Hamden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I guess just to start off, there's been a couple of pretty momentous events in your life recently that I've read about and heard about.
Yeah.
What are they?
Well, we won a Grammy with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway, and then 4 days later, I got engaged to Jason Carter of the McCoury band. So it was people kept telling me I should have also bought a lottery ticket that week, but I I failed to do that. So
Yes, those are pretty big moves. Congratulations on both those things.
Thank you.
Both momentous, life-changing occasions. So that's good. Good for you. So I was looking up your name, Bronwyn, and I always thought it was kind of like a Viking warrior goddess name, but apparently it's a Welsh name.
Yeah, totally. But I bet there's probably some Vikings in Wales back in the day.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like it was a. So when you were named Bronwyn as a kid, what did you think of this? Were you happy with the name? Did you feel like you wanted to be named Sue or Anne or something, or were you just?
It's a cool name in general. I think, having a name that people don't often hear comes with its own challenges of like every time you're introducing yourself, people don't recognize it. So, that's been a little bit of a challenge, but I guess it's unique also. So once they get it, maybe they remember it more.
So your name was always Bronwyn Keith-Hynes as a kid.
Yeah.
You were always known by kind of three names.
3 names. Yeah, my parents put their names together when they got married, and they changed their names to Keith-Hynes. So we're all Keith-Hynes, me and my brother and my parents.
I see. That's nice. So growing up, what was home life like for you in terms of music and stuff like that? Like, how did your family life influence you in music?
Yeah, I grew up, I guess I was born in Boston, but my earliest memories are from Vermont. I lived in Vermont from ages 2 to 10, and that's where I started playing the fiddle. When I was 3, apparently I saw some girls busking on the street in Burlington, Vermont, and told my dad I wanted to do that. So, they got me some Suzuki lessons when I was real little, and my Suzuki teacher would also teach me fiddle tunes a little bit. And I really liked those a lot better than the Suzuki music for whatever reason. And so that was the only thing I would practice. So then eventually a couple of years after that, they got me like a fiddle teacher. And,
right. So were your parents musicians or just? Not at all.
But they were always really supportive. It's cool. It's like, I know some people don't grow up with the most supportive parents if they're musicians. I think there's, some people just are worried about their kids. If the kids say they want to be a musician, then they think it's going to be a hard life or whatever. So they just, they want the best for their kid and try to encourage them to do something that they say is practical. But thankfully, my parents were always really supportive. And, I think my mom got a very advanced degrees in things that she never ended up doing. And so I think she was always of the mentality of like, you got to love what you do.
Right. I mean, you hear so many stories of musicians and artists who had tortured childhoods and like escaped into music as a way of, surviving kind of. But then you hear people like you that had a wonderful childhood and parents encouraged you, and here you are.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, nothing torturous, thankfly.
Yeah. So, assuming that maybe you didn't have parents who got you Suzuki lessons at age 3, and you didn't become a bluegrass musician, what do you think you'd be doing now?
I don't know. When I was a kid, I always said I wanted to be, if I wasn't a musician, it was either a dancer or a flight attendant. And I don't know, but yeah, so maybe I'd be one of those.
Dancing across the skies, I guess.
Yeah.
So you obviously took lessons and practice and learned a lot of music. Were you taking classical lessons all through your youth?
Only for those first couple years, and I wasn't a very dedicated classical student. I wish I had been. I see the value in it a lot more now than I did back then. Back then it seemed really hard, and the fiddling kind of came a little easier to me. So I just got really into the fiddle stuff, and I got into Celtic music. Like my first fiddle teacher was a Cape Breton fiddler, and it just kind of happened that way. And then a lot of my family is from Ireland. My dad's parents immigrated here from Ireland during World War II, so we would go over to Ireland to visit family a lot when I was a kid. And so I just kind of naturally fell into Irish music, especially when we moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, when I was 10.
Right.
A lot of Irish music down there.
So did you hang out in Irish pubs listening to Irish music when you were younger, when you went over?
I remember my dad dragging us. Oh yeah, there was this pub in Charlottesville that's called Miller's, which is actually famous for where Dave Matthews got his start, but it's like this really smoky, like very cigarette heavy pub in downtown Charlottesville, and there was a session in the upstairs part of it. And my dad would like bring me and my brother when we were like, 10 and 11, like through the downstairs, and like there's all these like guys sitting in the bar like looking at us like, what are you doing? And we go up to this, very sweet like Irish session, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, my little experience in Irish pubs is that lots of families do come with their kids and hang out. It's kind of just part of social life, and it's not that weird for younger people to be in there listening or even playing.
Yeah, especially like in Ireland, like there's way more of a culture of, it's more of a community thing rather than a thing about just like drinking alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were playing Irish music, and you obviously heard some bluegrass fiddling along the way, and you were inspired by that kind of sound. That was
yeah, totally. I would go to these like summer camps, these fiddle camps where they teach a bunch of like styles of fiddling, and I started hearing kids and people playing bluegrass when I was about 16, and I got really kind of taken by that sound, and I a bunch of people I knew were applying to Berklee or were just starting to go there who were bluegrass or improvisers on the fiddle, and so I kind of in my mind I was like, all right, that's where you have to go to like do this or something, which is obviously not true, but it is a really cool path. So that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a roommate in Boston long ago who went to Berklee, and Berklee was really known as a jazz school back then.
Yeah.
Of course, bluegrass wasn't really considered cool, learned music back then. It was a whole different world.
Right.
Now Berklee is kind of like the epicenter of that kind of music, right? Up here, at least.
Yeah, totally. And it was funny. It was like a really happy coincidence that the year I started in 2009 was the year that they started that American Roots music program. And I didn't even know about that program. I was just like, I'm going to do this thing. Because I knew Casey Dreesen had gone there, and there was people that had gone there before, but then my year, like a bazillion people ended up going, like, Alex Hargraves, Mike Barnett, John Mylander, Courtney Hartman, Sierra Hull, Molly Tuttle, all of those people cycled in within Dominic Leslie, all of my Golden Highway band members, Kyle Tuttle, within a year or two of me starting.
Oh my God. So that's the whole cream of the crop of young bluegrass right there.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what were your memories of Boston? Did you live in Boston when you were at Berklee? Did you?
Yeah, I lived in the Back Bay for about 2 years. I lived in the dorms for a year, maybe 3 years, and then in apartments near Berklee for 2 more years. And then like it seems like kids kind of move a little further out. There's all these like big group houses of musicians, and like 4 or 5 people will live in them, and so the rent is pretty cheap, and it's a little bit more fun because you have more space. Like
right.
So I moved out to one of those.
To play with all the time too, right? You can hang around the house, jam, and
we would have the best parties. Like there would be a different jam in every room. It was in a 3-story house. It was insane. Yeah.
By the way, you brought up Mike Barnett. I don't want to get off topic here, but how is he doing? Is he like making any progress towards playing again,
Man, I don't know. It seems like he's always making progress. Every time I see him, he seems better. I haven't I haven't talked to him about that in particular.
Yeah. Is he in Nashville too, or?
Yeah, he and his wife Annalise
Yeah,
are here in Nashville.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that was a tough thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So you at Berklee, did you meet members who became Mile 12 at Berklee?
I met Nate, the bass player. He was actually the only other member of Mel 12 who went to Berklee. But I met them all while I was going to Berklee. Like they would go to the Cantab, which was the place where the local bluegrass place in Cambridge.
Right.
So yeah, I met them pretty, I was probably 20 when I met them or something, so a couple years into Berklee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then who had the idea of forming this band? Was it just a group thing, like you like playing together, or did somebody have a vision?
No, it was me and BB. It was definitely us too. We like talked the boys into it.
Women took over and directed it.
Yeah, we were like, oh, no one's calling us for gigs. We don't have gigs. We want to play gigs. We want to tour. Like, people make bands. Why don't we just make a band? And we're like, okay, we need a singer. Neither of us really sing. That guy Evan's pretty good. We'll get him. And then we're like, all right, we need a bass player. That guy Nate seems like fun. Like, I don't know. So we didn't really know each other very well at all, none of us, but we were all just kind of had the same general goal.
Yeah, it just kind of happened.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Like, I think it all went a lot further than any of us had even ever hoped it would have, really,
Yeah. I remember, oh, by the way, what does the name Mile 12 signify? I know it has something to do with distance outside of Boston, but.
Yeah, we always said it. I think it's like roughly the road marker, like the mile marker where the Boston city limit is.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a Boston reference.
12 miles out, yeah.
Yeah.
I was born in Framingham, so I was.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I
Did you
don't
go going to Joe Val and stuff?
No. I lived there until I was like 2.5. I lived in actually a little town called Ashland, and the hospital was in Framingham. So I don't know Framingham at all, but it's in that 12-mile area outside.
Nice. Hey, just so you know, it seems like there's like we get these giant thunderstorms here in the South, so it sounds like there's a big one rolling in. So if you hear some banging, don't worry. Hopefully our connection doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But so you can see it's really dark outside.
People know this is a real recording. It's not a So when did you start to feel like you really belonged in serious bluegrass music? Was it in Mile 12? You felt like, wow, I'm really part of the bluegrass scene in a big way, or?
Man, I think it just kind of creeps up on you. It's like, I don't know, it's like I think every experience you have and every time you get to play with someone that you has been a hero to you or would make you really nervous at some point, and then you meet them and you play with them and, and it turns out it's like no big deal and they're really nice and that can make you feel a little bit more like you belong. So I think it's just kind of a gradual process. And, me not growing up as a bluegrass musician as a kid, I think it took me maybe a little longer to get over any kind of like imposter syndrome or just, just feeling like, okay, at what point am I like, can I say I'm a bluegrass musician? It's like, well, I guess what you want, but like,
I guess bluegrass is a genre which is very accepting of people. I think that's why musicians like it. And I think that's maybe why fans like it. It's just, you play with superstars on the stage and you're just another player and they accept you, right? Totally.
And I think it is also like, it's like people respect you based on your abilities. They respect you on a lot of levels, but your abilities can get respect. And that's kind of a cool thing because I know there's other genres where maybe if you're not from the right place, maybe you can never get respect or blah, blah, blah. Like I think bluegrass is there's a wide open playing field just because people are just, if you can play, they're cool.
Yeah. So which musicians were you intimidated by in the early days? Like, who would you have been like, oh my God, I'm standing next to somebody that would be like one of your heroes?
Everybody. I was scared of everybody. I remember the first time Sam's like, a friend, Sam Stambler invited me. I never played on the Cantab stage before at a certain point. And I remember, he was a friend and they were all friends up on stage, but he invited me up to like sit in on a song. And I remember my knees were shaking to go up on the stage of the Cantab. So, I was scared of everybody, but,
Did you have any particular bluegrass heroes that you like always wanted to play like or play with or just say hello to? Or like, for me, it was Tony Rice. Always growing up, even though I wasn't really a bluegrass person growing up, but he was the person that most influenced me and I admired and idolized. Did you have anyone like that in your world?
Yeah, totally. Michael Cleveland has definitely been a hero that I've gotten to know and become friends with. But him, Stuart Duncan, I don't know as well, but it's been extremely cool to even be someone that now I can say hi to Stuart Duncan and he knows who I am. And that's like,
yes, that must be a nice feeling, right?
Right. That's really cool. Right. Right. I'm still a little like shy, but Bela Fleck, I've gotten to, now I can chat with Bela Fleck and like, that's crazy. And, I'm still like, oh, that's Bela Fleck. Oh my gosh. But he's like so nice, he makes you feel at ease.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're secretly, nerding out.
Right. So, you decided at some point to leave Mile 12.
Yeah.
And was that to move to Nashville? Or were the two coincidences that you moved to Nashville and left Mile 12, or how did that whole thing work?
No, I was actually stayed with Mile 12 for a couple, maybe 2 years after I'd moved to Nashville. I moved to Nashville in 2018, and I was still in the band. And then we had a very busy touring year in 2019. And then 2020, obviously the pandemic hit. And so, we didn't play anything 2020. And I was still in the band and we were still sort of like, in touch a lot. And actually we won the IBMA New Artist of the Year award in 2020 over Zoom, which was like, it was like so cool. That was something we'd always wanted to do, but it was a little bit bittersweet that it was like the 1 year there was a virtual ceremony. Really? But, so then 2021, things were starting to open up that summer and we were working on the beginnings of an album and stuff and kind of planning ahead. But, I think we had some different, after being home that long, I think different people maybe had more, like some people wanted to tour more and some people didn't want to tour quite as much or as hard. And so that was kind of like a little bit of like, do we still all want the same thing after having that experience of being so home for so long?
Right.
I think for me, that just kind of made me itch to play even more. And then Molly just kind of called me out of the blue and I kind of struggled. I didn't really give her an answer. Well, I turned her down at first, but then, I just kind of kept thinking about it for about 2 weeks and I just kind of felt like it was just eating me up, thinking about that. And I just kind of felt like I didn't think I could live with myself, to watch whatever band she came up with tour the next year, me not be in it. I was like, I have to see what this is about and what could happen. Cause, I feel like everyone has a musical journey and it's like, if you don't try different things and new things, maybe you're not pushing yourself or you're not putting yourself in new experiences with different people. So it was a hard decision and
I'm sure it was because you have such a history with that band.
I know, it was my baby.
Like you're all best friends. I mean, I think you played up here 4 times and you just seem like one big family, even though you all arrived in vehicles and stuff, but it was just like a nice vibe I always got from the band.
Totally. And they were super understanding. I was glad that they understood and that they kind of kept the band going and it was all good. But I just had to see what was going to happen with the Molly thing. Yeah.
So at some point in Mile 12, were you feeling like I like this, but I want to move on, try something else? Or were you just, if Molly Tuttle hadn't called you, do you think you would have left Mile 12?
No, I mean, maybe someone else would have called me at some point and, there would have been a similar situation, but I wasn't like looking to leave Mile 12. I was very committed to like trying to make that my main gig, but it's a lot of work being like running a band. And I think there was also a part of me that like was like ready to not have to do all that work and just like be a side person, because I'd never really experienced that in a serious way. So
Right, you went right into a band from school.
Right. It seemed kind of appealing to step back and be like, okay, I don't have to do any business work. All I have to do is just like step on the bus or step on the van and play the fiddle, and I get taken care of. And, you know, that's a pretty cool thing. It frees up your creativity and like brain for other stuff.
Now, you guys, as Mile 12, you were doing a lot of your own booking. I mean, you were booking and collecting and driving. It was, I know, I used to say to my friends, like these young bands that drive hours and hours to play, and then after the gig, they drive hours more to stay in someone's apartment because they don't want to pay $150 for a hotel room, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
It just seemed to me like a really tough life in that sense. I mean, the playing was great, and the renown was great, and the awards were great, and the friendships, but the day-to-day of travel as a band like that must have been tiring, right?
Yeah, it can definitely get tiring. And I think that's why some people were wanting to scale it back a little, or at least not push it any harder than it was already being pushed. Because I think the year, but like in 2019, we all got pretty burned out by the end of that year. It was just exhausting. Right. And we felt like we'd all push as hard as we could. So yeah, it's really hard to get a band off the ground.
Were you traveling mostly? I mean, in New England, you were traveling obviously by car, but if you traveled to, say, California or Europe, you obviously had to fly, or you're not driving to California, right?
No, we'd fly there, thankfully.
So yeah, the cost of transportation and lodging and food eats up so much of a young band's budget traveling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So you moved to Nashville, and then you got a call from Molly Tuttle, and you decided to go with Molly. And she was at that point forming her band, like picking who to play with.
Yeah, apparently we were all her first call, which was really cool, or at least that's what she said. But I remember when she'd called me, the only person who'd like committed to it was Dom, and she was like thinking of asking Shelby, and like this guy Kyle says he might be able to do it, but he's not sure yet. And it was all very like, you know, we're all trying. And she just recorded this album, her first, you know, Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway album called Crooked Tree. But none of us, Dom had played on the record, and I ended up playing on like one song on the Crooked Tree song. But otherwise, nobody else had played on the record. And she was just kind of, now she had the record done, and she was like, okay, who can I get to go on the road with me and play this music? Because kind of a studio band. So yeah, we had rehearsals that fall, and it kind of, everyone was like, we were all so excited, you know, I think we all kind of felt like it was going to be something really special. And then we started touring in January. She had this whole West Coast tour booked. It was our first thing. We started up in Seattle and went south from there through Portland and down to California. And it was instantly awesome. Like the crowds were like shockingly great, like right off the bat. And the energy from the band and then reciprocated with the crowd, and just sort of that back and forth exchange was like just a really cool thing.
Yeah. So she had a West Coast connection, right? Or was she from California, or spent a lot of time out there, right?
Yeah, she's from the Bay Area of California.
Yeah. So that was a logical place for her to like tour first.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
And what year was that? Was that?
That was the beginning of 2022. Yeah. So we toured all 22, all 23, and I guess it's 24 now, and we're about to start our third year.
Shelby, the bass player, played here once with Della Mae way back in the day, and then Dominic played here once when he was really young in 2013, when he had a celebration concert for Tony Rice and trying to get people to come, and he came, and he didn't really know any of the players, but it was pretty cool anyways. He was I don't know how old he is now, but he was obviously 11 years younger then, so he's pretty young. Yeah, that's cool. He had that jaunty cap on his head, and it was like,
oh yeah, he still rocks some jaunty cap. Yeah.
So Nashville. How do you like living in Nashville? What is Nashville like for you as a traveling musician and a soon to be married couple?
Yeah, I love it. I love Nashville. It feels like just like the perfect, you know, it feels like a city designed for musicians, you know, because it kind of is. Yeah. It's like the kind of place where like I remember one time visiting here, even before I lived here, and I told the rental car guy I was renting from, he was like, "What's your job?" And I was like, "I'm a musician." And he like didn't blink an eye. He didn't like anywhere else in the country, like someone's like,
Right.
"Ooh, like, oh wow." And it can get a little, or they like don't take it seriously, or they're like, "But what's your actual job?" And it was so nice kind of
Yeah.
have him just be like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like, and everybody, all my friends are kind of on the same schedule. Everyone's gone on the weekends, and then we all are here on Monday through Wednesday. So
Mhm.
it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of easy and fun, and yeah, I like
Is
it.
it easy to make friends in Nashville? I mean, obviously you make musical friends from playing. Are most of your friends musicians or?
Yeah, I think all my friends, pretty much all my friends are musicians. Or not all of them, but a lot of them are. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Boston was great too. And, when I lived there, I had a great musical community too. But it seemed like after school, people started leaving just because, the costs of living are so high and you can't really afford to buy property or a house as a
Right.
musician living in Boston. It's just
Right.
not really doable for most people. So down here, you can actually buy a house.
Isn't Nashville getting kind of pricey too? I mean,
It
it's like
is.
booming, right? It's a booming town.
Yeah, it is. I think especially starting in like late 2021, the pandemic kind of kicked off all that housing stuff.
Right.
But like still comparatively to like cities in the Northeast, it's like still way cheaper.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we went down to IBMA, my wife and I, just coincidentally in Raleigh this year, and we saw your band. You were the
Oh,
final
cool.
band on Saturday night. We saw the whole Saturday night show, and I have to say it was like I don't know, it was a very exciting, almost beyond bluegrass extravaganza performance. It was just full of energy and everything. It was reminded me of like an '80s rock band or something. It was
Cool.
so a lot must go into. I mean, obviously you have the songs and the players, but the show was just very emotionally great and big. How does that all happen? Like, how do you
I
go from
think
just being a
so.
bluegrass band to being like,
I think it's happened very organically in the last 2 years. Like I remember, something that Molly is comfortable with now is taking off her wig and,
mhm,
talking about having alopecia. But I remember at the beginning of us touring together, that was not a thing she did. Hardly. Maybe she did it once or twice, but like it was not like a regular thing that she felt comfortable doing. I remember the first time she was like, maybe should I take my wig off during this song? Like, do you think that'd be cool? And we're all like, yeah, like definitely.
mhm,
That's what it's about. Um, so that was something that and I feel like she's just gotten so much more confident in general, just, being able to own that more publicly, and it just kind of
right,
strengthens her sense of identity. And then, I think Kyle and Shelby sort of definitely have like a natural, awesome stage presence. And I think that's kind of inspired the rest of us. I mean, everybody's got stage presence.
right.
They kind of are just like, they've got the moves, and that kind of like inspired all of us to like take it up a notch. Like I remember the first couple shows, I'd be standing next to Kyle and he'd just be like head banging and like rocking out, and I'd be like, oh no, like I gotta step it up. I'm standing right next to him, like I gotta like keep up here, and so
That's kind of what I was wondering because
yeah,
you're I don't know if you're mild mannered, but you're kind of a quiet. You're not like a flamboyant person, right?
I don't
But
think so.
on stage, you come off with your fiddle is like pretty flamboyant and active. So do you
Yeah,
like do you like
that's
like
definitely been a
Clark Kent,
conscious
Superman, or something? Or how does that work?
that's definitely been a conscious effort, and it like, I think, yeah, it's come naturally. Like, when you see everyone else doing it on stage, you almost feel like the dork if you don't do it. Versus if
Yeah,
you're in a musical situation where nobody else is moving or doing anything, you'd feel like a dork if you did do it, So it's like a group effort. It's like all or nothing. And then when you have a cool audience that's like responding to what you do, then you get more confident too, because you're like, oh, this, I see that this gets a reaction and that people respond to how I'm playing even more if they get like more obvious visual cues.
right.
I'm like kneeling down and like, almost acting it out. It's like they can hear it more or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So do you
Kind of
think
fun.
do you change your playing technique or approach to soloing when you're in like that kind of big environment as opposed to just playing in a club? Would you get like play more kind of wild, kind of rocky kind of leads, or does it affect your playing, do you think?
I
The
don't,
excitement?
not as much. No, I feel like I'm always going for the same kind of thing playing wise. Yeah, like at least in the band, it wouldn't change based on the venue. You know,
Right.
what would affect my playing would be like how well my in-ears were working that day, or how how cold it was outside or whatever. That would affect it. But like, I'm always
Yeah.
kind of trying for the same stuff.
Yeah. So do you sometimes try to play a solo that you played on a record of hers in concert, like kind of keep it close to the recorded
Yeah,
thing?
it's a mixture. Yeah, totally. There are certain solos that I'll try to play similarly, like most nights or some nights, or there'll be part of a solo that I'll keep the same, but I'll change parts of it. And that's something that sort of depends on my mood and like how I feel that day. Some days I'm like wanting to improvise everything pretty much
Mhm.
and like kind of challenge myself. And then some days if I'm like just not feeling very well or didn't sleep or whatever, I try to play it a little safer and play more stuff that's worked out. Um,
Right.
so it's sort of just like a how do I feel that day?
But you have the freedom when you're playing with her, when you're soloing, it's your solo pretty much. You can play what you want, depending on how you're feeling or how the mood of the band is, or what the last person played, or things that
Yeah.
influence your
Yeah,
solo.
totally. Yeah, there's no like you have to play it this way or yeah, we want to hear it like the record. No, no,
Mhm.
nobody cares. Which is cool. I think we all appreciate that freedom and like creativity.
Yeah. So what's life like on the road with Molly Tuttle and the band? Like compared to, well, it's obviously different than Mile 12. You're playing bigger venues, more theaters and amphitheaters and events. But what is it like being in a band like this for you these days?
Yeah, well, it keeps changing and the venues are getting bigger and our traveling is getting more comfortable. We did a few tours on a tour bus last year, which was really cool. That was the first time I'd done that and
Hmm.
sleeping on it and everything. And it's kind of great not to have to like bring your suitcase in and out of a hotel every night and like kind of pack and unpack and
Right.
I mean, there's pluses and minuses to both, but the tour bus is really cool and saves you a lot of time. Like you get to the place in the morning and then you have many hours in the day to do your own thing, exercise or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a tour manager who kind of deals with all the logistics and kind of helps with everything. So that's, a huge thing. So
Yep.
it sounds like this year we'll be on a tour bus a lot, unless we're flying to someplace for like a one-off gig. So
So
I'm
you
excited.
have like a Golden Highway tour bus that's yours for traveling around with, or is that how it works? Or
Well, I mean, I know some people do it like that. I think, if you don't, I think they're renting them. So I don't know if they do a wrap or like at what
right.
point you would get a wrap or how that even works. But I don't think many artists like own their own bus these days. It's
Yeah,
just
probably not.
really expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
Few, I know someone like Rhonda Vincent, does. And I
yeah,
mean, the
I know.
traditional bluegrass bus has the big wrap and the decals, and the sponsor on the side. That was kind of the big thing back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But maybe nowadays things have changed. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't know if Rhonda like owns her bus or what, but like, for the few bus runs we did last year, it would have not made sense to own it, because it's
right,
like
you just lease it or something, or rent it.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be fun to have a wrap though. We always kind of joke about that, like having our big faces traveling down the road. Be pretty cool.
Yeah. So your booking agent books all your gigs. Are you involved in choosing where and when you play at all? Does the band get part of those decisions, or is it like
No,
you
that's no,
just
they just kind of give us a
they set it
schedule.
up? They set
Um,
it up and off
yeah.
you go. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
play how many gigs a year do you think you play this
We
coming year?
did we did 99 last year, we counted, and I think it was a
Yeah.
little maybe it was around 100 the year before, so it's probably about the same this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, is like kind of a nice number. They gave us most of pretty much 3 months off at the beginning of this year, which was cool. And everybody had time to do work on their own projects. Like I'm working on putting out a solo record, and Kyle did some solo touring and with Dom, and Shelby's working on a solo record. So, but then we'll kind of get started pretty heavily in April.
Gotcha. So you had a very successful solo record a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, I put out a record in 2020. That was like my first one.
Yeah, that you had a lot of fine young players on it, collaborations. I remember it got a lot of, I loved it. It got a lot of great reviews, and really was an amazing album.
Thank
but that's your only one as a solo thing.
Yeah, and I'm putting out this new one, and I guess the sort of the new thing I'm doing on this one is singing. I didn't sing on the last one. I wrote in original instrumentals and had guest singers.
Right.
But I always thought like, all right, the next one I'm gonna work on my singing enough that I could sing on that, because that feels like the next logical like evolution as a artist.
That makes so much sense to me, because I think of a lot of bluegrass players who didn't sing, who were good instrumentalists. And, it's great, but I think it does limit you a certain amount, or let's say when you do sing, it expands your world a lot. I know several guitarists. I'm sure you know David Greer, Brian Sutton, who didn't used to sing at all, and both sing a lot now. And I think it just adds a lot to their oomph.
Yeah, it adds to what you can bring to your show or someone else's show. It's just another tool.
I mean, you can do, I'm thinking of someone like Tim O'Brien, who's one of the great solo performers, maybe the greatest that I can think of in bluegrass, who can captivate an audience for an hour and a half all by himself.
Yeah.
But so much of it is singing, and, he's instrumentally tremendous, but the singing is so important. And even someone like David Greer, who I wouldn't consider a great singer voice-wise, but he'd do a whole solo show where he sings half the songs, and it just adds this whole interesting element to his amazing guitar playing.
Yeah, and it's cool to see. I really like David singing. I feel like he used to not sound as confident as he sounds now, and it's been cool to see his evolution. It's like it's encouraging to hear people that didn't used to sing and now do, and it's like, all right, we don't all have to be beginners only when we're kids. Like, we can still be beginners at something when we're adults, which is like, it's a scarier thing to do for sure.
Yeah. No, I like his voice a lot. I don't think it's like a classically beautiful singing voice, but he puts it over really well. And like you say, you get more confidence as you do it more and more, and it adds so much. I forgot to ask you about your Grammy. So when you went out, I heard, I didn't see it, but I heard that you and Molly went up on stage and were just so excited to get it, which is so understandable. But do you actually everyone in the band gets an actual physical award, Grammy award?
We do.
And do they give it to you, or do they mail it to you? How does that work? Do you have yours there?
No, they mail it. Molly said like last year it wasn't until like June that she got hers. So but that is. Yeah, if you have to play on a certain percentage of the record, and that was a whole band record, so we all played on like 100% of it. So, yeah. So that's so cool. That's obviously a first for me.
Yeah, right. So getting back to your own life. So on a quiet weekend, like let's say you're not touring with the band, you're hanging out at the house. What do you like to do that's not musical? Like, do you have interests or passions that are not fiddle related?
Yeah, I like to go on walks. I go on a lot of walks almost every day somewhere. I go to the gym on and off. I've got a group of like musical girlfriends that we kind of have a gym club that we kind of text each other if anyone's going to the gym, and everyone tries to go. So I did that today, and that's kind of a fun challenge. Do
you cook?
Well, cooking is not like a thing I do, or I can, but it's definitely not something I do for fun.
It's not a passion.
No, it's not.
How about Jason? Does he cook? Like, who's going to cook in this relationship?
Yeah, he is definitely the cook. He's a good cook.
He's the cook.
He can grill. He can cook. Yeah, he's he's got that covered.
So that was a good move on your part to find.
Yeah, that worked out.
Yeah, you don't want to eat out all the time. It's nice to have a
Well,
cook in the
I mean,
house.
I'm great at finding, food that isn't eating out and isn't cooking, but toast and beans can get old too.
I hear the big thing in Nashville is that spicy chicken these days. Is that one of the big like restaurant things?
Yeah, people love it. It's like never been my favorite, but people love it. I've got a really good Indian place I like here. There's a taco place I really like. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what I like to do other than like exercise and practice and just like hang out with friends, go to shows if I, around town. Like tonight I'm going to Dee's, which is a dive bar down the street, and my friend is Vicky Vaughn of Delham. So she's got like a local country band, the Vicky Vaughn Country Band. So I'm gonna go sing a song with her and hang out and cheer her on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So do you look forward to singing on your new album or in performance? Do you like to sing? You're a good singer. You have a good voice. I always thought you should sing more with Mile 12. I mean, as a fan and a promoter, I always thought, wow, you should sing more.
Hey.
But do you like to sing?
I do. I do. Yeah, it's really fun. And I've started like doing more local gigs around town to kind of have practice at it. And I've been booking a few actual Bronwyn Keith-Hynes shows regionally around the Southeast for, really? I've got a couple at the end of March, and I've got a festival actually in Arkansas in May on a rare weekend off. So I actually have a few things under my own name, which is really cool. And I've got a local gig all of March. That's going to be kind of like a way to practice that set and practice those songs. So
do you're writing some songs too that for yourself to sing?
You know what? I'm just started on that. There's no original songs on my singing album. It's all sort of, songs from songwriters, but that feels like the next thing after, working on singing.
Do you mess around trying to write songs and then say, nah, that's not that good? Like, is that something you do?
A little bit, yeah. I definitely try.
Songwriting is definitely a hard thing to.
It is.
It's kind of scary sometimes. I've only written a few songs, but I just find it scary with that piece of paper in front of you. Like, where do you start and where do you like? I don't know. Some people just do it effortlessly. It seems like they just flow out. But
yeah, it was actually the last couple of weeks I got together with a new friend. I don't know if you know Nora Jane Struthers, but
oh yeah, I know her. She's played up here at different house concert stuff. Yeah, she's great.
Cool. Well, she kind of was taking me under her wing and showing me her songwriting process and like kind of step-by-step ways to kind of go about that. So that was really cool and gave me something, now I've got my homework of, ways to go about songs. So
are there certain singers that you admire or would like to kind of emulate in some way and not copy them, but inspire you, female singers?
Yeah. Well, I love Molly's singing. Also, Sarah DeRose's singing, she sings a lot of different styles, but I love the way she sings everything. And I think her voice is really cool in bluegrass. AJ Lee is one of my favorite singers too. She's really cool.
Yeah. So I was wondering, you know a lot of really good musicians, right, in Nashville and from your life in music.
Yeah.
So if you were going to start a band or even just have a duet with somebody, how would you choose, or who would you choose? Like who would you, if you could sing with anybody as a duet performing around Nashville in a club, who would you pick?
Oh man, and they had to say yes?
Well, no.
Someone I thought would actually do it.
Anybody. No. Just if you said, wow, this is my dream duet partner, we could go out and do some fiddle, whatever, duets and sing at a club or at the station or something for half an hour. Who would you pick?
Man, I might pick Sean Camp. I love his singing and musicianship in general, and I think that would be a good duo, he's a great guitar player, and yeah, maybe he'd give me some original songs of his to sing.
So do you think he would do it if you asked him?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah. I was just wondering because, obviously a lot of players, just how you would decide, like what format. Would you go out under your name as a solo, a duo, a trio, as a full band? How would How are you doing?
So I mean, I have been putting together a Bronwyn Keith-Hynes band. That's a 5-piece bluegrass band with some great players around here, and it's been fluctuating a little bit depending on who's available. So I've been doing that, and that's what I'm going to take on the road a little bit this spring. But I've also done duo shows with Jason, which have been wonderful, and we did like a week of tour dates in where was it? It was last year in Florida, and it was really fun. Like he can play guitar really good, so it wasn't all twin fiddle. So we sang, he played guitar, we both played fiddle, we both sang, so that was kind of a fun thing, because it was like, how much can you do with like this limited stuff?
I love the duet. I think, to me, of all the music combos, two people on stage playing and singing, to me, is the ultimate.
Yeah. It's I think it's really cool.
I know Jason can sing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when you perform with him, do you switch off doing leads, or does he do lead and you harmonize, or how does that work?
We switch off. Yeah, we'll both sing lead and harmonize with each other and do some instrumentals. And yeah, we're actually thinking about trying to do some Northeast gigs at some point together. It'd be kind of a fun. It's it's easy travel. It's one hotel room, one car.
Right.
Stop for lunch whenever you want. It's like the easiest tour you could possibly do.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well,
he's always going to agree with you on the lunch options.
Right. Yeah. Well, then I guess you have to work that out. That was going to be my last question to you. Would you ever come back and play in Guitar Town again? So maybe you will sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely.
Your band.
Yeah, maybe I can bring the Bronwyn Keith-Hynes band, or the Bronwyn Keith-Hynes Jason duo.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
If you could sing with anyone alive or dead, is there anyone that you like? Would you want to have played with Bill Monroe as a duo, or is there anyone like?
Or Tony Rice? I mean, Tony. I never got to meet him or play with him. That would have been really cool. And then, as far as singers or players,
anybody, just like somebody you would love to just be able to stand next to and play and sing or whatever.
Yeah,
a lifetime hero person.
Yeah, definitely Tony Rice would have been really cool. And Bill Monroe, to play in Bill Monroe's band, especially one of those earlier bands, would have been super cool.
So Bronwyn, how would you describe the music that you play with Molly? Would you call it bluegrass? Is it still bluegrass? How do you describe it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would call it bluegrass, but everyone's got a different definition of what bluegrass means to them. So, but to me, I think there's you've got the instrumentation, you've got the enough of what I think sounds like bluegrass to be bluegrass. There's songs in different like feels and grooves that some people might say, oh, that's not bluegrass, but I don't know.
So what makes it bluegrass in your view? Is it the instrumentation or the feel, or how do you?
I think all of gosh, oh no, I don't know. Yeah, the instrumentation, the feel. I think also, honestly, like the background of all the players. Like we all have this knowledge of like traditional bluegrass, right? We all know Bill Monroe songs and Stanley Brothers songs and Flat and Scruggs songs, and all of that influences what we do. And I think that's a big reason why everything we do together we could call bluegrass.
Right. So it has a common kind of foundation that you're all familiar with and you learned on, right?
And the licks that we're using, the language that we're using on our instruments is, for the most part, idiomatically bluegrass. Some people are using more jazz. Like Dominic uses more jazz vocabulary sometimes, and that's that's cool too. But his core is still bluegrass.
Yeah. I remember hearing some quote from Tony Rice about that. He said, you can take the music wherever you want, but it still has to be bluegrass. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to keep something about the tradition and the vocabulary and the whole thing alive in the music, or it becomes, I don't know what, there's a lot of people talking about what it is these days. And is it newgrass, bluegrass, acoustic band music, string band music, jam music?
Totally. It's like, where do you draw the right? Yeah. And then like, where do you draw the line? It's like, is it the lack of drums? No, because there's plenty of styles of music that don't have drums that aren't bluegrass, and
Right.
Jimmy Martin played with drums, so like you
Right,
can't.
yeah, bluegrass had drums. It was
Right,
controversial at one point, but a lot of
right.
bands
It's
didn't
not
have
even acoustic, that it's acoustic, because there's old time music and whatever. There's other
it.
stuff
Right,
that's not bluegrass. So
right.
a lot.
Do you still play Irish music and that kind of? Do you still enjoy doing that when you get the chance, or are you pretty much over it?
Oh, I'm not never going to be over it, but I don't really get a lot of chances to play it these days. I had a
Yeah.
little jam with somebody over the holidays, but maybe the next time I'm in Ireland. But
Hmm.
it's hard to find that, it's like I don't really have the time to seek it out or to keep up my, my knowledge of the tunes and stuff. They kind of
Right,
fall
right.
way far back. My
Yeah.
brain. Point.
Would you and Molly and the band tour Ireland, do you think? Was that part of your plan to go to Europe and tour over there? Or have you done that? I don't even know if you have.
No, the Molly band has never done anything in Europe. I hope so. She did a duo tour with Tommy Emmanuel this past January, and I think I think what I heard the hope was to get more of an audience for her there, and then hopefully be able to bring the band over, because it's just expensive to bring a band to any other country.
You can imagine, yeah.
It's just an incredible amount of overhead costs, so you have to make sure you are going to sell enough tickets.
Yeah, the booking becomes so important in all the logistics when you're adding all those extra costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Um,
Yeah.
So one of my questions that I came up with was where acoustic music, bluegrass / is headed. Do you think it's headed back towards more tradition? Do you think it's headed out into outer space? Does it depend on the artist? Do you have any sense of where the music is going?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, the fact that Billy Strings is selling out arenas is so cool and like so good for bluegrass, and I think he like does a really cool job of like playing his own music and like stretching the boundaries in certain ways, with pedals and long jams and different solo structures and stuff. But then he also plays a lot of traditional music, which is which I think is actually bringing more fans to traditional bluegrass.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went to a Larry Sparks show at the Station Inn last year, and there were a bunch of like young guys wearing Billy Strings shirts, and they had like dreadlocks, and I'm sure they heard about Larry Sparks through Billy Strings because he plays his music. So that's bringing people to the Larry Sparks show, which is cool. So I don't know. I think there's going to still be room for kind of whatever people want to make bluegrass into, Molly and Billy are kind of pushing the boundaries in certain ways, but also still performing traditional music. So I think they'll still be traditional artists, and they'll be.
Good point. I didn't think about that. I think of Billy Strings and Molly to an extent as like getting out of bluegrass into more like rock audiences and jam, but they're actually bringing people into the traditional bluegrass thing because so much of what they do is that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they're like making these people realize how cool it is, and these people wouldn't have even heard of it probably if they hadn't been presented it by Molly or Billy or something.
Yeah. No, it's very encouraging. I think bluegrass has been through periods in its life where it kind of was fading from the scene and was being overtaken by English rock and hip hop and a lot of different things. But it seems to me that it's in a good spot now with people like you and your band and Molly and everybody like mixing the old and new and really taking it seriously.
Yeah, and I think also with the birth of all these like college programs for bluegrass in the last 10 years or so, I think that's going to be a really good thing for bluegrass going forward. It's going to, legitimize it even more and bring more to it.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting time, I think, for it.
Well, also Beyonce just put out a song with clawhammer banjo. I mean,
I thought it was like I thought it was some kind of spoof. Wasn't sure if that was real.
Me neither. I was like, did this really happen? But like, that is going to be huge for like everyone in our, in our world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good time.
So when you were at the Grammys, did you meet anybody like famous special that you were excited to get to chat with, or was it just a whirlwind?
Me and Molly met a few like country people. We kept going up to country people we were kind of seated in the celebrity area, but we figured like the country people would like us because they probably liked bluegrass. We were too scared to go up to like the pop people. But we talked to Lainey Wilson, we talked to the brothers Osborne, we talked to Tyler Childers, and they were all very nice to us. So
Did they know who you were? I mean,
yeah,
were they familiar
yeah,
with you guys? Yeah.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool.
So that must be a pretty exciting feeling for you to be like in a
Yeah.
band that's really making waves and getting huge notice, and it's right.
It's super cool. I've been in situations that I never even would have expected so far, like Molly's connection with Dave Matthews, and then Dave Matthews having us up to play with him, me and her up to play with him at the Gorge was like kind of, that was sort of a life-changing moment, especially being from Charlottesville and always hearing about Dave Matthews growing up is like,
right.
It's like a weird full circle moment. So it's like been such a cool ride already, just things I would never have even expected.
Yeah, well, as you say, life goes in waves, and sometimes you just have to take the risk and go for it. I mean, and I think you obviously made the right move, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And opened up different doors for you and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, anything you'd like to say at the end of this discussion about anything, or we've covered a lot of topics, and you've been very forthcoming with your ideas about music and your life there, and I think people are going to enjoy listening to this. Anything you'd like to say to your fans in Hamden or anybody around the world, or
just go check out a Guitar Town concert. I always loved playing those. I hope to be back, and you guys have a really cool thing. Are you still doing them at the video store?
No, we haven't done them there for about almost 4 years now.
Oh, okay. What's your?
We stopped there and we started doing outdoor shows in my yard.
Right, we did one of those. I remember.
Yeah, I think Miles 12 played after you left in the yard again.
Uh-huh.
And now we're at a local restaurant called Cafe Amici, which has a beautiful back room. Seats about 65 people. So it's been working out really nicely there. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
You don't have to worry about the rain and all that. We did I think 18 concerts in my yard with no weather issues, which was pretty amazing.
Wow,
but everyone I was like on pins and needles worrying about the clouds and
Right, totally. Oh man, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
still going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I just appreciate you being interested and spending the time to talk about what's going on with me.
Yeah. It's been fun. So congratulations on your engagement, which is probably the most, and you can win a Grammy anytime, but you're only going to get engaged once, hopefully. So that's a big one. So I wish you guys the best of luck, and hope to see you up here sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're always welcome with any configuration you come with. You're always welcome to come and hang out.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess that's it, folks. We've been talking with Bronwyn Keith-Hynes about fiddle and life and Nashville and Grammys and marriage and everything else. And we'll hope to see you sometime soon up here, Bronwyn. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye. Okay, bye. I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.